everyone. My name is Noam Lando. I'm the co-founder and CEO at Webbing, and today I would like to introduce some of the advantages that eSIM can bring to enterprises and global enterprises, and the opportunities for MVNOs to tap into that market. So just a few words about Webbing. Webbing is a global MVNO and also a solution provider for eSIM from SGP02, which is known as the M2M standard, all the way through the SGP22 to the new SGP32, which is the one that is targeting the IoT use cases, utilizing the same DP+ that we all know that are being used for the smartphones. Company has been established about 14 years ago, and since last year we've been acquired by Wireless Logic, which is a UK-based company. So we are now a subsidiary of Wireless Logic, which is one of the largest global MVNOs targeting IoT use cases. We are mainly dealing with B2B. And as mentioned before, we are a combination of an MVNO and also a platform provider. Today, I would like to introduce another opportunity, as mentioned, for enterprises, and maybe just to highlight some of the challenges for those global enterprises where they want to, when they want to utilize eSIM, and how it is connected also to the roaming part. So if you can imagine the current situation before eSIM has been introduced to those large enterprises, they have to use their local providers obviously for their domestic connectivity. They will still need to utilize local MNOs, definitely. But when it comes to their global stuff, the global travelers, they had to negotiate their roaming, their outbound roaming tariffs and retail packages on a branch by branch. So if you have the enterprise that got, for example, 20 or 30 offices globally, they have to negotiate their roaming rates for voice and data on a country by country. Obviously, they had to stick with their domestic provider and subscribe for the roaming package. So that was and still is a main challenge for those enterprises, which we believe that the eSIM can address and can solve. And then in terms of the logistics part, looking at those enterprises that need to onboard new staff, onboard and offboard employees, they had to get physical SIM cards, removable SIM cards in bulk, and use it as part of the staging operations, and insert the SIM card to the smartphone, to the laptop, and iPads and other devices. And that's like another task for them to handle, to make sure that they have all the SIM cards. And obviously for them to move from one operator to the other, it's a challenge by itself, obviously. It's not like a private consumer that can easily go from one operator to the other and just by replacing a physical SIM. And the last but not least element is the business continuity, which actually is linked to the previous point that I just mentioned. Those enterprises want to be able to move from one operator to the other and deploy it as fast as possible, and actually migrate the entire subscribers, again, their own subscribers, from operator A to B as soon as possible. Okay, so when they use removable SIM, obviously they are kind of locked. The device is not locked, but practically to switch physical SIM cards for them is a nightmare, right? They probably need to wait until they upgrade their devices, their end user devices, and only then they will probably deploy the new SIM card. So that's like another a challenge that they are facing. So few examples of how webbing can address these challenges, and how we believe that MVNOs can also enter into that space and offer a very attractive service to those enterprises that usually used to work with MNOs, and we believe that MVNOs can now enter this area. So first of all, as we all know, eSIM is a great opportunity to help with the faster device onboarding. They don't need to handle physical SIMs anymore. So obviously that's like known for everyone. And for enterprise, I think the impact would be even greater, since they can perform the eSIM activation remotely without having QR code, without having even an in-app. They can do it with an EAD bind, and I will elaborate it in a few minutes. Global coverage by combining multiple MNO or MVNO's eSIM profiles. The enterprise can enhance their footprint, the coverage, and obviously optimize their rates, and they don't need to rely on a single provider, which used to be their domestic provider. So again, in eSIM, you can decouple your domestic plan to the global plan and have a much better footprint. I'll just mention that the MDM integration is also key for the enterprises. The MDM is usually the platform that allows enterprises to remotely manage their employees' devices, usually corporate-owned devices, such as laptops and tablets, and obviously smartphones. To some extent, also BYOD, bring your own devices, can also be managed by MDM, and this element can also enable the eSIM download for those enterprises. So again, another key element in the onboarding journey. For us, we see the eSIM in the enterprise segment. We see it like it's slightly different when it comes to different devices. So if you have iPhone, as this example, as you can see in this slide, is slightly different than laptop, which I'll elaborate soon. For the iPhones, when it comes to staging for enterprises, they can utilize the EAD, which is the eSIM identifier, the identifier of the eSIM chip that you have in the iPhone, and they can gather all the EADs of their devices, of their target devices, use the MDM platform to trigger the eSIM download. That would be one option. And the other option for those MVNOs that support the EAD bind with Apple, there is a way to connect the SMDP Plus, which is the eSIM repository, to the Apple lookup server, used to be called ALS, Apple Lookup Server. And then if you enable those enterprises to import all their target devices, EADs, to the platform, they can then deploy hundreds or even thousands of eSIM profiles immediately. In a push of a button, they can just deploy all the eSIMs, and they don't need to handle QR codes and sending emails with images or installing some apps. So again, for enterprises, we see it as a key differentiator. Another advantage would be having a secondary eSIM to deal with the global part, to have a single profile, again, the domestic profile to use by the MNO or MVNOs for domestic use, and a secondary profile to use outside of the home country, mainly for data. It could be potentially also for voice. There is no limitation to utilize it also for voice. And set some business rules so the end user or the device will move from one profile to the other once the end user is moving from country A to country B. That's still in development. As some of you know, there are some limitations of remotely controlling the eSIM subscription, but that's part of the standardization of the SGP22, which would potentially allow enterprises to control, and that's like a great benefit for them. Another benefit that local MVNOs can bring would be a local data breakout. If you compare the traditional roaming plan, and if you travel from the US to Japan, and you are trying to operate a Zoom or Teams call, all your traffic will go back from Japan back to the US. So that would cause a latency issue of at least 300 to 400 milliseconds. So it would cause a delay in the call, in the Zoom call. And if you utilize a local or regional eSIM, you will then have a local breakout, and the latency would be much better. And that's like unrelated to the pricing. It will just give you a benefit of better performance. And obviously the MDM that I elaborated before, that's key element for the onboarding. When it comes to laptop, that's like a new topic for us, and I believe also for the industry. We can see growing demand by enterprises, and we see also the OEMs like HP, Dell, Lenovo, Microsoft Surface, and others that are deploying new laptop models with embedded SIM, with eSIM, obviously SGP22, that's clear to everyone. It's not going to be SGP32 since it's a consumer device. And if you utilize the MDM together with some new logic that we have developed on top of the Windows platform, you can automate the eSIM download directly from the target carrier, from the MNO or MVNO, and the enterprise can decide and mix and match between MVNOs and MNOs on which profiles they want to use. Obviously, with laptop, it's data only, so you don't have the voice element, which could be a bit of an issue, I would say. But when it comes to data, they can decide to have a data subscription, eSIM subscription for domestic use, provided by their home operator, and a global provider for their global use, or they can even have multiple providers and automate the eSIM download completely, I would say, seamless and transparent from the end user perspective. It's a corporate-owned device, so obviously the IT department will decide about the policy and how and when they deploy those eSIM profiles. We do see MVNOs that can play in that area and provide great advantage or great service to those enterprises. Even if you just take the fact that majority of the MNOs today, they still provide eSIMs with a QR code. As the speakers before me mentioned, they can even print it on a carton box or a plastic. So they still haven't had the major step to go fully digitalize and transfer the eSIM on a digital media. If you take it one step further and you automate the eSIM download from the DP Plus directly to the laptop, again, utilizing the MDM of the corporate, you can bring a huge advantage compared to the traditional MNOs. So that's something which, again, can bring great benefit. Adding on top, another use case that we have seen is private networks, where some of the enterprises would like to connect their devices to a private 5G, a private network. And there, obviously, roaming is not an option even. If you can have a local profile provisioned to your laptop or iPhone and run this automation to move to the 5G profile remotely and automatically based on a business rule whenever the device is within the 5G network jurisdiction. And then when it goes outside of the private network to switch automatically to the public profile, that kind of automation and business rule would give great benefit for the enterprises. An example of a local breakout, which is slightly different than or a bit unrelated to the eSIM itself. What we have done for a global eSIM, we have taken the concept of roaming, of global roaming, with the advantage of selecting automatically the best network available. But as you know, with roaming, as mentioned before, you have a limitation where the traffic must go to the home network. So we twisted it a bit and deployed multiple packet gateways globally, as again on our network as webbing. And that allows us to still use roaming and again have the benefit of multiple networks when you travel, but point to the relevant or route the GTP traffic, the user plane traffic, to the nearest packet gateway. So eventually, from an end user perspective, you can still travel from the US to Japan, use a roaming eSIM, but the traffic will go directly to the internet from the data center in Japan. So it will have a Japanese IP address, and then the applications like Zoom and Teams will work like a local SIM in terms of latency, and that's something we resolved. And a similar concept could be, again, as mentioned before, with the introduction of a local or regional eSIM by the MVNOs. So just to summarize from my side, when you streamline the eSIMs for enterprise, it's slightly different than consumer. They are not looking to have an app installed. They need to have a postpaid solution. Obviously, for the large enterprise, they used to buy services from the telcos in a postpaid model. So you also need to make sure you have all the billing systems and BSS solutions available. But the moment you are linked to all the relevant platforms, as mentioned, the Apple lookup server, the MDM of the enterprise, and other elements, that would be able to provide you great benefit and key differentiator to address those enterprises, and again, let them enjoy the revolution of this eSIM. That's it from my side. If you have any further questions, feel free to ask, and I'll do my best to answer.
Thank you so much, Noam. We have lots of questions.
Okay.
So let's kick off. A question from James Lee. The automation you just mentioned, are there ways of automatically installing eSIM on consumer devices? The QR code is one of the ways, but is there a better way?
Yes, so one of the options would be EAD bind, and that's a standardized option by the GSMA, by the SGP 22. So if you are an MVNO and your DP Plus is linked to Apple, and if not, you can ask your DP Plus vendor, you can remotely automate the download of the eSIM. If not, you can utilize the enterprise MDM platform and provide the MDM with the activation code and then trigger the download directly to the device. It's important to mention that at the moment, the end user would have to accept. So there should be no QR code. The trigger can be done remotely from the IT, but the end user will be notified and will need to accept the eSIM download.
Understood. There's a question, is your solution available for enterprises only, or can it also be applied for consumer smartphones as well?
It can be applied also for consumers. However, it really depends on the use case. In some use cases, it makes sense to utilize our orchestration platform for small, medium businesses. But if it's a standalone, I would say, consumer device, I believe that installing a QR code or an app would be much easier.
Do you see more opportunities presented by eSIM in the B2B space or B2B?
Can you say again? Sorry.
Do you see more opportunities presented by eSIM in the B2B space or B2C? So
At the
business to
moment,
business
B2C.
or
Yeah, at the
B2C?
moment, B2C, definitely. We all know about the travel SIM. So that's like the trend. However, we do believe that those MVNOs, and I clearly mention MVNOs because MNOs will adapt it later on, probably. Those MVNOs that will address the large enterprises will be able to have a great, a customer retention from enterprises and not, I mean, with B2C, it's kind of a transactional business.
Understood. Have a question from Calvin. Is there a tie-up between eSIM? Sorry, keeps jumping. Is there a tie-up between eSIM and virtual SIMs?
Yeah, so eSIM is kind of a virtual SIM, but in most cases, when you hear the term virtual SIM, it's the non-standardized solution for eSIM, where some of the Chinese OEMs, smartphones OEMs, they adopted virtual SIM, meaning that you don't have even an eSIM chip, and then this solution won't be standardized by the GSMA. So that's the main or I would say difference between vSIM, virtual SIM, and eSIM.
I'm being told I can only take one more question, but we have loads of questions now. So if you would be able to type in answers, that would be
Sure.
really useful.
Pleasure.
Let's take the last one. Maybe a question from Daniel. Daniel says, as Noam is explaining, it is not hard to be an aggregator. KeepGo is one. Aggregator of, apologies, because it keeps, new questions are coming in and it keeps moving. Apologies, I'm going to start again. I need to find the question. As Noam is explaining, it is not hard to be an aggregator of a large number of eSIM suppliers. It's harder to be a distributor of eSIM. And the question is, do the MVNOs and MNOs push the same plans, airtime, data, bundles on regular SIM and eSIM?
If I understand correctly, if the question is whether it's possible to push an eSIM to a physical SIM, again, I'm not 100% sure. So it's not possible, obviously, to push an eSIM to a regular SIM that's provided by an operator. But probably I misunderstood the question. So if it's possible to send me the question in the chat, and I will address it later on.
Absolutely. It's a question from Daniel Salpak, posted at 11:03.
Okay, sure. We'll address it.
Okay, well, thank you so much. Thank
Yep.
you for taking the questions after your session. Much appreciated as well.